Hello everyone, this is Gorp. I am going to be making a small video about how to set up a basic fun map. So as always, if you're new to mapping, what you need to do is get to the editor. I always just do Control-Shift-E on my keyboard. Make a map, click on layers. If you need more layers, right-click the group and add layers. You'll need the game layer, front layer, tune layer, tele layer, switch layer, and speed up layer for most fun maps. Then you'll need to obviously save your map, choose file, test map locally, and yeah, that's how you can get testing a map yourself. You can also just connect dummy like you would a normal server. With any fun map, you're gonna want like a starting area with a tele and some start lines so that the team has to be set in stone before you start the match. So I've done that. All you need to do is just go to the game layer, hold space, find your start line, hold shift to draw lines and boxes. If you're new to mapping, I'm going to be kind of doing both, explaining things on a low level, high level, and then placing tele just like that. You can also highlight all layers, and then you have selection over everything. Something that you have to understand about fun maps is we use a lot of different server settings to achieve very consistent T movement for mechanisms like these. So if you open server settings down here at the bottom right corner of your screen, go ahead and click that. And then you'll need to add these. Not every tune zone will be required for every fun map that you make. This is just the way that I think is easiest. It's good to set up at least one tune zone that has no gravity, and then set tune zone 1 to friction 1 for both ground and air, so that when you touch air or ground, you don't stop moving or slow down. And then this is really important. This is a new feature of fun maps used recently, which basically disables the effect of velramp on the player character. Velramp is something that modifies your speed after impulses or something like that. But the important thing is that it allows you to design things ahead of time, knowing exactly how the T movement will be handled. So like, we can look at this logically. 16 correlates to the number of units. So speeders are in terms of units. On the right side of your screen, if you have the XY angle HUD enabled, it shows it to you as a floating point value. The floating point value of your position is not actually how your position is understood by the game, like the server. It actually stores it as groups of 16. So this would be like, I've moved 16 units, another 16 units, now I'm at 32 units. And these XY values on the corner of my screen are just convenient because they represent a number of tiles instead of units. But when you're mapping these maps, it's good to think in terms of units because that reduces your vector for bugs or unintended behavior. So if we look at this, if we were to spawn in the 20 tile, because we have a 16 speeder pointing right, that means we'll move exactly 16 units to the right. And then once we're on this speeder here, because it's 32 or 16 times 2, we'll move 2 tiles up, and notice we're still traveling in the X direction by 1 tile. So we actually move like a knight's move, 2 up and then 1 right. And then we have another 16 right, which means that we're gonna be traveling now 2 by 2. And then this 64 actually moves us down by 2 instead of 4. 64, you're like 16 times 4, I would move down 4 tiles. But you actually only move down 2 because remember, we're already moving upwards 2. So then that movement is downwards. So you are able to map all of this, knowing in advance exactly how the T will move, and you won't have to test it over and over and wonder if the T will get stuck, because they're always going to end up in this position. As long as you put freeze or prevent player movement before they enter a system, then they'll always end up in the expected position. It just gives you a lot more control over what's going on. So with that explanation out of the way, go into our setup room. I threw a bunch of tune tiles on top so that we can't interact with each other, and that's this tune zone 4, hammer strength 0, player hooking 0, player collision 0. I'll explain why these tune zones are needed in just a moment, so we'll come back to that. For most fun maps, you're gonna want some way to choose a team and then control those with switches per team. And then this center area is for a ball or just a dummy that would keep score. So I'm just gonna throw them in here. I've already set this up. This is like kind of a map template I've put together ahead of time. That's not fully finished, that we're gonna finish here in this video. I have this tune set to the tune that I used here, which lets me control the T speed directly. So they get the teleport to 16, and then they fall down here with deep. I'm going to switch over to the editor again. You're going to need an area for the game to be reset. That way you don't have to kill the whole team, picking sides again, and then getting back into a game. It's better to have some sort of setup room where you reset all of the logic for the whole game. This is best done using one of these server settings, which is basically a clone of this tune zone here that lets us control the speed directly. But it also applies a high gravity or a very highly negative gravity. So gravity, it applies speed in the same exact way in the code that speeders do. So 32 is 20 tiles down because it's 320 divided by 16 is 20. So I have a tune zone that will move T's down 20 tiles per tick, and then a tune zone that will move T's upwards 20 tiles per tick. So this is only 16 tiles. So we know for a fact that when we enter, this will only take 1 tick, and we can hit a bunch of switches along the way, which we'll use to set our score to 0, 0. And I've got the score kind of laid out in a couple places, and we're gonna fill it in. This is a 7-segment display that I'm gonna be setting up. You can set up displays in a number of ways, but this I think is the easiest and most compact way. You just start either clockwise or counterclockwise, going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you can place switches that quickly with shift and then scroll to choose a new number. So these two in the corner share a door length tile. These two share a door length tile. It's just a very compact way to draw scores. Instead of doing the exact same thing on this side, we're actually going to copy and paste this, which you can do by taking the whole selection and then scrolling with shift scroll like I just said. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then flipping it with the N key. And then you'll notice that these numbers pop up. If you don't like that, you can take a zeroed length tile and then place those back. So that's like the fastest way to quickly copy a bunch of switches that have different numbers, and you want to just scale some design to another place while keeping the system the same, just with different numbers. And we're gonna go ahead and do that down here as well. Actually, I'm just gonna copy this whole thing. I'm just gonna copy this as well, because that's going to help us design the score incrementer. And we also need to just copy this to here and this to here. Okay, so now we need to set this score to 0. There's a couple ways to do this. So we have 8, 8 because all of the switches are on by default when you start any map with switches in it. You can either set it to switch open in the map settings. I personally think that that's not the best way to do it, because if you include a bunch of switch open, you're sort of confusing like map logic with the server settings. And you have to have it anyway when you restart a match, because switch open only occurs at the, when you start a team. Also, another thing, it's up to you if you want to left align or right align the 1. Eventually, we're going to be going from 0 to 1. You can choose either side. I think for this example, I'm just going to show right aligned, but you could design a 7-segment display that uses a right aligned or left aligned number. So the only thing we need to do to set 8 to 0 is to remove this middle segment. For this side is a 4, and this side is 11. So it's actually very simple. If we were to start this, we would just need to set this to 4 and this to 11. And then I have a teleport for the ball once it's done into this arena. I've made this like sort of crappy block arena, which gets a teleport of 15. And then notice in here I have deep so that the ball can't move. Now I can enter on this side. We have this shitty block arena. Oh, I was already in here. Sorry, I need to go. So if we enter again, now we see the score is set to 0. There is a problem with the way that we've implemented this setup strip here, and that's that it doesn't work for any current score. So if someone were to restart, and let's say that they had a score of like 3 to 9, and it'll go up to 9, and then once they get to 9, the next point scored will restart the whole thing. If we were to just remove the middle segment, then a 3 still has 8 and 14 missing on the left side. So it won't actually be a 0, it'll be like a backwards C. So we actually need to set all of these, even if at the start all we needed to do was remove 2 segments. So we need to fill the rest of that in, which is conveniently it's every other number just turned on. And remember, it's 1 through 7 and 8 through 14. 1, 2, 3, skip 4, 5, 6, 7. Then we have 8, 9, 10, skip 11, 12, 13, 14. Looks right. So now anytime that the T enters here, it will always set it to 0, 0, regardless of what the score is currently set to. Now, if I restart one more time and go into the middle where the ball enters, pick a side. You know what? I'll pick this side this time. I can try to play this by myself, but of course, this doesn't get updated because I haven't implemented this yet. Another thing that you should consider when you make fun maps is plan in advance what switch numbers you're going to use. So I chose pretty early to use 1 through 14 for both 7-segment displays. And then I chose 21 through 29 for points for the left side, and then 31 through 39 for points for the right side. This isn't a binary system like the one that's used on volleyball. Making a binary system has a lot of nuance to it, and I wanted this to just be like a really quick and easy explanation. So this just counts to 10. So this is gonna need to be longer. We need some of this, and we're gonna need to turn off 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and then we're gonna copy all of that and turn off 31 through 39. And I didn't need this to be that big, so then I'm just gonna move this back and cut this off. You can clear selections if you hold with nothing on your brush. So if you right click, it clears the brush. If you hold shift and click, it deletes things. And you can also make selections just like you would with a normal brush with nothing in your brush. The next thing I need to explain is that when you make a fun map that has goals like these, oftentimes you don't want to have anything happen when the player enters. You just want them to respawn. So now nothing happens. I still spawn on the right side. So no matter which side I enter on my team's side. And the way that this works is when the ball enters either goal, because earlier I set CP to 1, CP to 2, and CP to 3 if you're a ball. If you have CP3, so 11 goes here, and 12 goes here. So you'll notice 11 sends you with 16 units left, and 12 sends you with 16 units of speed right. And you also can't put a wall here or else it'll stop your speed when you hit the blue tele. Once you enter 11 or 12, you have that speed a tick after, and then you get your teleport to your checkpoint teleport. For sides 1 and 2, this is just this box and this box, which does nothing with the speed. So you'll notice you go left, you go right, you just hit a wall, and then 16 units down, you just go back to the arena, 13 and 14. So no amount of processing is happening here. If you wanted to do some win logic, you could stop them with a door and then teleport them somewhere else to a repick room. We're not gonna be covering that in this, but that's just another thing you can do. But for balls, when they hit this checkpoint teleport, because they have CP3, they enter this checkpoint teleport, which is gonna be how the actual scoring gets processed. They enter this section over here, and then they go really fast in one direction. And actually, they should be entering, yeah, this direction. So they're heading left, I score on the left side, and they're heading to the right when I score on the right side. And you'll notice I've already done some of the work of making sure that the door closes after the T moves downwards. And at each position in this strip, I've used some of that negative and positive down mech tune zones. So one that sends them down 20 tiles, one that sends them up 20 tiles. When you teleport through a blue tele, your speed is immediately translated to the teleporter position. So because we have 16 units of speed going into the blue tele, we don't even appear for a single tick in this tile. The place that we actually teleport to is directly to this tile, and we have this speed already. So we end up here, and Toon Zone 2 has a high down gravity, so it will check to see if it can push you against this door. Two things. If you're already touching a door, you can't get stuck. So because I'm here in this tile, which doesn't contain a door, and there's a door immediately adjacent to it, I can't get stuck in this door. Doors, they stick out slightly, and that collision causes the game to mark you like already touching, and any subsequent speed that you would get in the door's direction is just canceled. So even if I set this to a really high value, like gravity 1000, I'm never passing through this door because of the way that the door logic works. If I had put the door here, then I would go straight through it. You can have doors that are one tile long, and the way that you do that is you just stick the length tile in a solid tile. The only thing that makes a door invalid and causes it to not have collision is if a door on the left crosses over it, then it overwrites the state that the door is in. So you don't want to have doors crossing each other unless you know that T's never touch it at that point. So with all that out of the way, you can see that as I throw the ball into this side, it continues down this path and it starts to mark another door as visited. So because we're traveling to the left, we first end up here at this position, and then it sees that this door is closed. So it continues for another tile because we have exactly 16 speed. It checks above it and it sees that there is also a door above. And then when we were here, this door was not on. So because this door was not on, the T was allowed to get that positive 20 tiles of gravity downwards. And something important about switch collision is that it's unskippable. Certain tiles are skippable, like stoppers, but switches are not. So if there is a clear line by the end of a tick from the previous tick's position to the next tick's position, you will hit the switch no matter what. So if I'm traveling with a speed of 1, 1, positive 1, 1 tile, then I'm gonna end up here, here, here. I go here, 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 all the way down to the bottom. If you would travel all the way down here in one single tick, which you'd have to have a lot of speed, obviously, what it does is it doesn't actually track logically how you ended up here. We actually take this line and then go straight down. So your first instinct may be to place switches like this, but that's not actually how switch collision or unskippable collision is handled in the code. It finds the place that the player would end up, and then it tracks from where you were to where you are now, and then draws a line. This, again, I'm not going to draw like a perfect line. So that's just something to keep in mind because this has plagued my progress before. Yeah, so all you need to know about this map is that because we always block with a single tile after a door, the T just travels straight up. And eventually, if I put the T in enough times, remember 16 is the reset. So 1 point, 2 point, hopefully this works. And it resets everything. So now these are all off again. Now that the counter is working, all we have to do is draw the switches. There are designs for 7-segment displays that actually use the way that the display is being shown to control the logic as well. And that's what volleyball does. But designing this way is really complicated, and I don't recommend doing it as like a first-time fun map maker. It's a lot easier to make it this way, and I don't recommend combining the two. We're traveling downwards, and the score is 0. We want to disable either the left side or the right side and disable the top and bottom. So for this, I'm gonna choose a right aligned display, and we're gonna turn off 2, 3, 5, and 6. So let's do that. And I don't have to place them exactly where I'm placing them. I'm just placing them a little bit farther away so you can see the distinction. And then it'll get this teleport at the bottom in 1 tick because we have a lot of speed. And then we're gonna be traveling upwards. You may be asking, why do I even bother to move the T in alternating directions at all? There's 2 different reasons. The first reason is that a door is annoying to place them in compact places because then they cross over each other or there's not enough place to put a length tile. And again, the crossing over causes doors placed previously in the map to overwrite the tiles that are further along in the map. But the other more important reason is that you are affected for an additional tick after you touch a door. So if I touch door 21, then on the next tick, I still can't move downwards. So if you're ever making a fun map and you're like, why can I not keep moving the T even after the door is no longer touching me? You just can't move in the same direction for an additional tick. So if we want to get a 1 to a 2, okay, so we need to turn on 3, 4, 6, and 5. 3, 4, 5, and 6. But we also need to turn off 7 because 2 doesn't have a segment here. So we need to remove 7. And now if we reload the map and move Borf. Oh, I'm stupid. I didn't place it upwards. Yeah, so I actually need to reset this because now the score is going to be weird. So now we get a 2. Now we need to go to 3. 3 is very easy. All you have to do is turn on 7 and turn off 6. Wait, turn off 7 and turn on... No, turn on 7 and turn off 6. I was going to say we already have that. Turn off 6. Turn on 7. Sorry. 3, and then we need a 4. Turn on 2. Turn off 3. And turn off 5. 3 and 5 turn off. And wait, what? 2 turns on. Yeah, okay. I'm trying to keep them in order. I'm trying to keep the switches in order. So then this should turn into a 4. And then to get to a 5, we need to turn off 1, turn on 3, turn off 1, turn on a 3. Turn on 5. 6 is pretty easy. We just have to turn on 6. Seven is probably the most annoying one. So I need to turn off 2, 4, 5, 6. 2, 4, 5, 6. Turn on 1. So we'll move this down to make space for 1. And then 8, we need to turn everything back on. We turn on 2, 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6. And then 9. All we need to do is turn off 6. Alright, and then once we get to 0, or sorry, once we get to 10, it resets and goes and sets both of these back to 0, because again, 16 goes back to our setup. And there you have the whole loop. Because of the way that this tune zone works, we know the exact position at every single tick. So this cannot possibly break. And that's unlike a lot of other mapping where you literally have to playtest stuff in order to find bugs because you have too much freedom. And the great thing about fun maps is that you can completely take the freedom away from the player. That's the gist of it. And the only thing left to do, really, copy, flip, and increase this by 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Paste. Copy this. Flip it with the N key and increment it by 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it looks very hectic, but hopefully that gives you some idea of how to do this. Volleyball is a little bit more complicated than this, but now, you know, if I had another player, they'd be able to score sometimes. What? Oh, the actual switches are flipped. It actually makes a 5. Oh no. So wait, why can't I flip these? Oh, it's because I didn't flip. So this is an easy fix. If we want it to be mirrorable in this display, all we need to do is just make sure we draw them in the same order. So I went counterclockwise here and clockwise here. But if we flip these around, and then 13, 14. I swear. Then it should work again. Please tell me that works. Let's just reset everything because it's weird. Okay, for real. What'd I do wrong? I didn't increase the numbers! Oh my god, I'm actually trolling. I swear this will work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 1, 2. And there you have it. Good luck with your maps. I hope that other people actually make fun maps or use this video as like a jumping off point to like try to make these kinds of maps, because I think they're really interesting and I think that their potential has not been pushed to the fullest. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.